Hello, Ziante, and welcome to the project. Thank you for taking the time to do some work on the dad design. I see you have some question marks here, and I don't want you to just put questions in while you're working. I want you to shoot me those questions on Discord. That is the rapid tool for communication and feedback when you are confused or frustrated or experiencing some sort of challenge with the project. Don't stew on issues. Reach out to the team, get feedback, and let's make sure we hit these hurdles as rapidly and as quickly as we possibly can. So I see some question marks here about the hair. You're probably wondering, oh, community college. Sweet. I work at a community college. Oh, get some sleep then. Yeah, I work at CCBC. So I don't know which community college you're at, but yeah. So I can see it looks to me like you're using the symmetry tool. It's a good technique. Nice. I'm in the Southwest Community College. Cool. I would rather tell you in private DMs for safety purposes. Most definitely. All right. Well, have a good night, and I look forward to having you on future streams. All right. I can also see that you went through and you let's pull out the layers so people can see the layers involved here. And actually, I'm going to pull this over. Let's see, layers, layer properties, layers. I'm going to pull this over here onto this other screen, and we're going to switch to this other screen. All right, and then we're going to change our view to Cintiq. Yep. Interesting. Let's unlock that and slide that over. All right. And lock that back. Oop. All right. So, okay. So you can see she went through and she kind of tried to figure out the structure underlying the body in red here. Right? Like went through and kind of analyzed it. I guess trying to find the structure. What I would have done personally is I would have kind of, because I think, did I give you a version of him that if we turn off Ziante's, you should be able to turn off his clothes, right? All these above layers, and you've got just a naked dad, right? Where you can then get sort of the structure of the body there. And you can use that to sort of build up your understanding of his structure. I know I changed the pose a bit when I was going through, but you still are going to want to leverage those items. So here's the first thing I'm noticing. You drew let me get my critique layer set up. Let's see. Bloop. Crit. I'm almost close to graduating. I look forward to seeing you on live again. Woo! Nice. So I have questions. Just join here. It's about animation or character design. Yeah, go ahead. Shoot your questions. I am kind of focused on this, but I will try to answer best. So you drew this line here. But then you didn't follow it. Right? Like his hair goes beyond that line. So for his hair going beyond that line, you're already off to a sort of a, you know, not the best start, right? You're gonna, if this is the top of his head, then this is gonna need to be the top of your head. His head is actually two 90-degree triangles sitting on top of each other to get that base shape, and then a triangle kind of making a star here, right? So if you were to draw it from the front, you would, and remember his head is kind of tilted, but if to understand it, you could draw it straight on. You would draw something more like this, remembering that this line that we've established is the top, so we're not going to go beyond that. So we're going to need to go, but we're going to need to go up and beyond his head a little bit, and then come straight down. All right, to get that equilateral triangle or 90-degree triangle. And then a second one here, just beyond his head. And let's pull that back a little bit. Let's clear that. And then let's knock this back by adding another crit layer. Let's see, bloop. And then I like to throw in a fill of white. Oh. Fill of white. And drop that to 50%. And then that, or 70%. And then that will be my crit layer. Right? So you can see it kind of a ghosting of it back here. So, like I said, we're going to start. His hair is two triangles. Right? Like this. And let's use his ear as a guide. So we'll only go as far as his ear. So then we know we can go as far as his ear here. And remember, this top line here is our stopping point. So we don't want to go any further than that. So we've got these two shapes to make his hair. And it's not as prominent as that. It's not as, you can probably round it out a little bit. Give it a little bit more size there. And then we got a triangle that sits upside down, almost hitting on a center line here. Right? But remember, he's not straight on like this, but this is kind of the basis for his hair. And that's not going to work really, because you see how it comes down and like it's too low, because that's his forehead, and his actual top of his head, where his head is about here. Right? And that's, so we could probably get away with that if we leverage that out a little bit. But remember, the head you drew does not, his eyes, like his lower eye is here, his upper eye is about here, right? So your eyes are way too high. So you're going to need to bring all of that down. So Control 2. All right. So because his head is tilted, so if we kind of found the median point, the eyes you drew are up here, right? In order for it to match what I currently have, those eyes are going to need to come down. Where is my subtool? So. Right. Gonna need to bring those eyes down here, right? Let's erase all that. Alright. So those eyes are going to need to be further down. Then we've got forehead. His hairline. His head's at a tilt. And you're going to need to mimic that tilt when you're drawing, right? So he's got this hairline that is somewhere around, you know, at its height is here. And its low is here. So then more than likely it's probably going to land somewhere in the middle. I sent you a private important message in the reference animation, including my credentials in arts. I will see you next time on the weekend since I'm busy scheduled during the week. I will see you then, Star Knight. Have a good night. That hair is going to be probably somewhere in here. I have a visitor. Big flying visitor. Makes me itch. Alright. Alright, so for some reason my... It's got really big. Alright. So his hairline is going to be somewhere in here. Right? And his chin's going to be all the way down here. Right? So, because he's got kind of a hunch going on. Right? But his head is definitely a perfect triangle. And you want to match lips. So everything that you drew was way too high. So now I'm having to redraw and lower. But it's really difficult to do that because you have to essentially redraw everything sort of from your head. And since you don't know the design, your goal is to mimic the turn that I did, right? So if you, I'm gonna back up here, and what I want you to do, turn that off, is I want you to essentially think about this like, I don't know what the exercise would be, but you have to mimic this pose, right? His head is tilted. Right? Or maybe more like this, right? Right, but he's got a tilt to his head. So when you drop these lines in, those tell you where everything's supposed to land, right? So if the hair is supposed to start up there, let's start first with this general shape here, right? So from the front, if we turn him a bit and we do look at him from the front, his hairline is only going to go as high as this, but his head's got a tilt to it, right? Because this chin, this side of the chin is higher, right? So he's got his head tilted, right? And it goes as low as here. Right, so that's one thing, right? So we get that head shape established. Then we put his hair in, right? And if he's got this hair that is like this. Actually, that's kind of a little bit more of a, right? We want to mimic that, right? So you look at these lines in reference to, so these are going to be, and this one doesn't even come up that high, right? This one only comes up to here, and then it goes back. This one goes all the way up to there. It comes down. Right? That eye line that goes at about this angle. Right? We want to mimic that eye line and that, right? Everything's at a tilt. Tilt. Right? Low point here. High point here. So you got to get your hair to go from here to here, right? Maybe not that wide, right? And then you have to kind of judge what looks like a good width, right? And then that other peak comes out here, right? And we're kind of feeling it out based on the guidelines, right? And you've got his chin and that kind of match up. But this goes up, right? This goes up. Because the whole thing is tilted. See, even I went too low here. Yo, what's up, man? What's up, potato? Right, and this is almost all the way up here. You know, so even I'm messing up occasionally, but we want to use these landmarks to help us structure things and get the proportion and keep the proportions. All right. Now we've got his hair kind of working and his head shape kind of working. Where's his nose? His nose is going to land right in there between those two items at a tilt. Just going to help us figure out where the eyes are going to go. Where's the mouth? It's right on that line, but at a tilt. And the nose is a little bit higher. Right? So we're not going to try and jump into this level of detail until we start to understand the structure and the simple shapes of the head and everything is in the right position. He's kind of hunched over. This shoulder's all the way down here. Your shoulder's all the way up here. Right? So you're really going to need to make sure that you are lining all these pieces up. It's going to make it so much easier. I know it's a complicated pose, but we're not doing we aren't making a pose for a video game, right? We aren't right, we're doing a 2D animation character pose, right? So we're trying to capture the characters sort of like their attitude, right? And this shoulder's up here, it's higher than the chin almost, right? And that's because his body is kind of turned like this. He's kind of bent over here. And if this is the turn in the chest, that whole structure is going to be tilted, and then it's going to come straight. Right? Hitting down to the crotch. Right? So we're wanting to first establish the basic shape of the pose and the body parts before we get into any sort of detail. And if your parts don't hit the same lines that my parts hit from the initial drawing, then you need to go back and adjust them until they hit the same parts and then look proportionately correct. All right. We have to pay attention to the pose that's established, right? And then that arm, where's the bend happen? Right about here. Right? And it comes out. And where's the wrist start? Right? And if we're turning this direction, right? This hand that we saw as flat, as we turn that, that's going to be more like this now, isn't it? Right? So when we go to draw this hand, we're going to see less of the palm and the thumb and whatnot coming more at us. And the fingers are going to be this way. Right. And that needs to be lower. So we got to grab that and we got to move that lower. Deli, thank you for the follow, right? The original drawing is our guide and we're trying to mimic it. You know, in animation they're going to expect you to be able to replicate what the director or character designer has given you, right? You know, right? And you know, as this turns, we might not even see that bend. That bend might not even be a thing from this pose, right? That what looks like a bend there might just be the straight hand down, right? So now we've got something more like this than a bend, because it's coming at us, whereas it was kind of going away from us. It's coming straight at us now, a little bit more so. All right. And this hand, right? If we're turning this way, William, thank you for the heart me. Thank you. Hi, I have a hand for intricate abstract, not perspective. A bit frustrating at times. Oh, yes, it can be. It takes time to get used to it, right? So this hand, if we're turning it that way, it's going to move this way. You brought it in. It's actually going to go further out. So we're going to see less. We're going to see more of it over here, right? So that hand that was kind of crossing his body now is no longer in front of his body, and it's sitting out here, no longer in front of his body. You know, this pose he's taking is him mansplaining. So, you know, at first he was kind of looking away mansplaining, but now he's looking at us, giving us the full mansplain. Right, that's now coming at us, and we got to make sure, right, too low, right? This is the line we're following. It's too low here, so I need to come in, and based on that, I need to move all of this up to make sure that I'm matching the lines and positions from before. And my thumb here is too big, too long. I need to bring it down a little bit. Oop. Undo that. Bring it down. All right. Our goal is to match, hit line for line. Drop more guides as you need them. Draw more guides as you need them. It looks like he's to offer some pills. Yeah, like Morbius. All right. And so we got this sleeve hitting this line here. And so we can use that as a guide point, right? Sleeve, coat, right? Now these forward. That's going to hit down here somewhere. So let's just drop that line. Maybe it doesn't land there ultimately, but we know that at its lowest, the coat's going to be there, but it goes up and away, right? Because that opening that was there, that follows this line down the front of his body, moving away from us, right? And you know, if you struggle with anatomy, right, like his body pose should be the same. And what I try to give you all is, that's why I gave you both underwear and non-underwear pose, because you should be able to go all the way down to his somewhat naked form, right? And that's his legs, right? So his leg was kind of this way, the knee here, the foot at that position, right? Ankle bone. So as we turn this direction, that foot, that ankle bone is going to show more. That knee is going to be more over. Thigh, we're going to see more of the inner leg, right? This is our that's going to turn here too, right? And it can be challenging to turn that leg subtly. What's up, Boxhead Tony? But you know, you probably and so, because it's this is why anatomy is so important, because they're not going to be able to give you everything you need to understand, you know, to be able to draw the character in all the various poses. So you're going to need to understand anatomy well enough to make some of those judgment calls yourself and have it look appealing, right? So his leg isn't going to change much, but the angle of his foot, except we're going to have a little bit more leg out here, I think. That leg goes in. We are going to see more ankle bone. Foot is going to be longer this way. This foot. And you really have to think of these in terms of the whole pose, because that looks really awkward to me. So let's back up. All right, so remember that line of action? His whole body is currently like this. Right. His weight is on this leg. Right, more so. Right, so we need to establish that sort of pose now. Here. Right, now that foot's going to be more toward us. right? And we want to keep it simple in the beginning, right? Because we need to make sure the pose works before we go in and start adding any details. Like I shouldn't see any eyes until the legs are refined, right? And somewhat working, right? And you had some legs in there. But in your current pose, what I'm kind of seeing is almost like, his legs are kind of going both out like this. There's too much knee bend. I've got locked knees here, right? Right. And so, in order, as he turns, that leg is going to look either like this, yeah, like this, but it could also look more like, but you really have to, it's going to be pose dependent. So what I'm doing now is I'm simplifying it, right? And then I can go back and make it more complex, right? So, but I know that this is the leg. This is the leg with weight. This is the leg that's somewhat relaxed. Not too relaxed, but a little bit more relaxed. This one has all the weight. Because he's leaned that way, right? Weight. Not so much weight, right? So if he's got weight there, then this leg is can kind of be relaxed. And that's going to really, oh, happy Star Wars Day. Yeah, I was planning to do something with Star Wars, but didn't happen. All right. Chest. My chest is, going back to red, my chest is all the way up here. One side down here, one side up there. You got to pay attention to those lines, right? So his chest should have been somewhat like this, right? Like lined up with the lowest part of mine and the highest part of mine, right? Let me turn the pose back on. Right. We got the armpit there. Arm coming down. And like I said, we got the relaxed leg. Which is going to be boop, 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 boop. And then the straight leg, which probably needs to be pulled in a little bit, right? So we're going to like select that whole leg. Select that whole leg. And we're going to pull it in. We're going to set the pivot point at the hip. We're going to move that whole leg in. Yeah, and some of this is subtle and not really that obvious, but you can tell as the pose starts to come together, it starts to feel, could start to feel awkward. Right, but this foot needs to now be pointed out here, and this foot needs to be pointed at us, right? Because everything is turning this way. Right. So before you go into any details, I don't want to see any eyes or nose hairs or belts or any of that business until you have um, a uh, a simplified version. So you should have broken this guy down into like these simple shapes, tubes and cylinders, right? Before you started to turn it, right? You did some structured studies initially, right? But I think you too quickly, right? Like, I'm not sure if triangles in the knees was something that someone has showed you before as a way of understanding anatomy. But I would go through when you're doing a turnaround and do that shape analysis. Let me turn off my reference. Oh, all right. The way I would analyze these shapes is I would say, his body, right? Upper body. And you did some of it because this looks good, right? Right? Based on the positioning of that belt, you can kind of infer that it's got to lean forward. And then the legs. And I don't, not even fancy anatomy, straight lines if necessary to understand what's going on. Almost like a Tin Man version. The hair is a little bit more complex, but you can simplify it by finding the simple shape in it, right? Even if you don't know the precise, simplifying the shapes so that there are things you can draw is the way to go. Bakuya? Oh, I'm not sure what that means. Toby the Universe, hello, how you doing? All right, so you simplify those shapes, and then you go in to start doing the turnaround. All right. So, okay, let me take that crit. Not too much, man. I am exhausted, so I stayed up too late last night, so I can give you guys till about 45 after. After I'm done with this critique for one of my artists, I think I'm going to call it. Right. All right. All right, and then we are going to drop it. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. Unlock. And cut away. Right. And so here's where some awkwardness happens in, because see, if you look at, there's a couple of lines that I need to pay attention to on this character in order to make it work, right? So something feels off to me. And it's because this line should be more like this, right? So for me, I feel like this entire upper body needs to shift over. Yes, you do. And I have not been. I've been going like a crazy person, but I guess it's the season. All right, so I'm going to shift that whole piece over like that. Because that feels more, right? Like he's kind of bent over. But we do see neck, right? Which means I went too high somewhere, right? So now's the time for me to correct for that, right? Because I'm hitting the chin, but the back doesn't come up that much, right? So right, so when we think about right, because there's a lot of space between that chin and that hair. And he's got this little electricity thing in his hair. So forehead. That comes all the way up to here. Ear. But it's very subtle. But we want to make sure we're getting everything in the right place. And we just kind of want to rough it in because we're not 100% sure. We're going to have to play around with it. So we're not making any final lines here. Kind of like sculpting. So the proportions feel right. Landmarks feel right. Right, so this needs to be all the way up here. So you went too high on that shoulder. Because at some point we've got a neckline that's supposed to come down into this area here at some point. What is our center line? And we're just searching. We're not trying to get to refine anything refined. You know, his head even feels a little too wide, right? So, like, do we need to squish it a little bit? Right? Does that feel better if it's thinner? Where does this color happen? And I'm really just thinking structurally at this point. I need to turn this foot a little bit more. I mean, there's not a whole lot of shift. But the positioning is subtle. You know, and that shoulder and all of that might be in. Well, maybe he's not this wide. Maybe it's yeah, and it might look awkward at some point, you know, because it's feeling kind of awkward right now. Right. What's up, Jules? I'm good. I'm exhausted because I've made some poor choices in terms of rest and sleep. And so I'm going to give myself another 10 minutes and then I'm out of here because I have to make better rest choices. I woke up this morning and was in pain. Yeah, thank you. I will. I will. Yeah, I won't make the same mistake. I have a lot going on tomorrow. So, um, but I definitely wanted to give some guidance to the artists. But these guidelines are your king. These guidelines are your Bible. If you're not following these guidelines, you're not gonna get a proper turnaround. And your goal is to mimic what I've created already. And if your thing isn't looking like mine, that means somewhere you've gone wrong, right? Somewhere you've lost the you've lost the script, right? So you have to draw those guidelines and you have to follow those guidelines. If you do anything else, it's going to look like a completely different drawing, right? Like the character, and it's not even about knowing my style at this point, right? It's not even about understanding the design, the character design, but about replicating what you see here as it turns, right? Thinking about that thing in 3D. So, I want you to build off of this blue drawing going forward, trying to replicate, because I've just given you more guides at this point. I haven't drawn it for you. I want you to get used to drawing it, but I've given you more guides, more direction on how things are going to fit. And and not all the time do I get things perfect, right? If we look at these fingers here, we need to make sure those fingers match up. Yeah, this is it is the tedium is what makes it so enjoyable, right? Like, there's a lot of artists who, want to take the time and draw, but yes, thank you. Yeah, I did. I have a master's in fine art, visual effects, and animation, emphasis in storyboard. And I'm bringing on some other artists. I'm trying to give them some tips and tricks. They're all, I think, former art students who need opportunity and guidance. And so, so, yeah, take your time, and then once you get kind of something going on there, right, you can even see how I've begun to like shave down between the red and the blue. So now with that, I can add a third layer, right? Go in with a third color. Thank you for the follow. Yes, I'm a kind of a one man band, but no, it's my company, Turtledust. We are a small boutique animation studio. Right. We can, and I would, I would work with these big shapes first, these big guidelines, right? Like, what's this coat doing? Because this coat is open here. From this perspective, the open coat looks almost like two straight lines, but from this perspective, it could be a little bit more. They don't have to necessarily converge because they're moving down. All right. And We technically should see some of this collar in here, which kind of speaks to the fact that he's kind of leaning forward, right? And then that collar out there that comes down, right, hits this, almost hits this line. Have you ever done one of those exercises where you draw a grid on something and then you go through and you kind of use the grid? That's what you're doing. You're doing somewhat of a grid drawing in this replication of this character design and trying to make this turn work, right? Right? Making sure that all the pieces line up. Because if this is here and this is here, that's there, then that needs to be about there, right? And then we've got this. Shoulder piece here. Right? In the beginning, you're not like, it's drawing, but it's not drawing because you are turning it. And in order to turn it, you have to kind of analyze it. No, I went too low there, right? It should be about the same. I'm gonna make some coffee. Thank you for the stream, and have a nice rest, Turtledust. Thank you. Enjoy your coffee. I could go for some coffee right now, but it'd be a really bad idea right before bed. Have a good one, Jules. I wish we were on the same time zone. Yeah, that'd be cool. Eventually. It's like two ships in the night. One ship in the morning, one ship in the night. Oh, cool. For how long and what coast? Nice. Wait, are you Florida? Down where Aaron is? Nice. Oh, nice. New York. Yeah, I'm in Baltimore. Only a hop, skip, and a jump from there. Apparently, bit of a train ride, but is it animation work, Jules? Can I ask? right, ladies and germs, that's it for me. Cianti, I will post this so that you can review it. And awesome. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching me draw for a short minute, bearing with the nosebleed earlier in the stream. Not my nosebleed, but my daughter's. And just generally being here to support me while I make this project with my friends. It's coming along. All right. Well, that's it for tonight. Hope you enjoyed, and remember, Black Animation Matters. Bam. Good night, everybody. Maybe I'll leave you with one last watch of the movie. Here we go. Did I close it? Closed it a while back. Okay, this is gonna take a hot second to get it up. Output. Yep, tired. Bedtime.
Seconds to reach orbit? Mom, this is some of your best work. Uh-huh. I test my work. You're just trying to get on Mom's good side. I'm the oldest. I fly first. Right, Mom?
Here we go. Cool. What are you drawing? I am drawing my character from my short film From Distance. Yes, it is a animated short that indie animated. I am an indie animation studio, I guess. There's a lot of us nowadays.
Audra, good job. Audra. Oh my god. Don't be dumb. You crashed the simulator. It took a week to reboot it. You're going last. Our I-901 test flight is in 24 hours. Don't call her stupid and give you our final system checks tonight. You just called her dumb. I'll start flight prep.
Thank you for the follow.
I'm saying, if I can't get work done, no one can fly.
Wow, this looks amazing. I will follow you for the process. Thank you.
What's it doing anyway? Dad! Dad! Dad? Who gets to fly first? Did you ask your mom? She said to ask you? Okay, let's make this scientific. First one to the ship gets to fly first.
It's got a long ways to go. Thank you, though.
In the hangar! You cheated! Oldest equals fastest. Audra! What? Audra, the ship will do all the work. You're just along for the ride. Okay, Dad. Prepare for takeoff. All systems green. Ready for takeoff. Hi, Milo. Hi, Ace. You're clear for takeoff.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Good night.